exclusive New York City rivalry takes center stage under the lights of Jersey Mike's Arena. It's a powerhouse matchup between Christ the King and the St. Raymond Ravens. Coming up next in the battle in New Jersey. Welcome back to Jersey Mike's Arena in Piscataway for Game 2 in the battle in New Jersey. It's a long-time New York City rivalry between the Christ the King Royals and the St. Raymond Ravens. And this is going to be a ton of fun. Alongside Book Richardson, I'm Justin Galanti. Coach, Game 1, big-time win for Kingswood Oxford behind Gavin Griffiths. And in Game 2, there is some big-time talent on the floor and two programs that know each other pretty darn well, and a lot of respect and a lot of healthy dislike for each other as well.
Justin, I'll tell you what, Christ the King has been one of the best teams in the country, let alone New York City in the state. St. Raymond's is hopefully on an upward trajectory. They have some young, great talent. But I'm just telling you, man, like this Christ the King team, they have everything. It's a coach in heaven.
And you see Carmelo Anthony there, his son Kyan, one of the stars of this Christ the King team. Melo caught the end of Game 1, and he is sitting front row for Game 2. And I think a lot of people would like to have a front row seat for this one. This is going to be a big-time matchup.
Yes, it is. I'm telling you, Christ the King, man, as a coach, they have everything that you can dream for. They have size, athleticism, strength, speed. And here's the thing, they're older as well. So I'm telling you, this is going to be a great test for St. Raymond's.
Tell me about these three players to watch for Christ the King. Brandon Williams will be playing at UCLA next year, Brandon Gardner at St. John's, and then Chinfeng Pong, who's being recruited by a number of high major institutions.
Brandon Williams has an opportunity to be extremely special at 17 years old, just turning 17 years old as a high school senior, going to UCLA. His better days, I'm telling you, are ahead of him. Watching him get bigger, better, stronger, he's going to have an opportunity to do something special with basketball. I'm telling you, I've seen him since he was about 13 years old, and watching his progression, it's been incredible. Brandon Gardner, he is a pogo stick, man. He is a rim protector. He is an incredible athlete at 6'9", 6'10", and I'm telling you, Pong, I've watched him. I think he can play anywhere in the country. That's how talented he is. He puts it on the floor. He makes plays. He defends. He rebounds. And, he's a big-time recruit in 2024. Whoever gets him, they got themselves a great young basketball player.
Well, you talk about those three super talented players, but today specifically, the three of them are 6'9". There's nobody on the St. Raymond roster who's taller than 6'7". So, if you're the Ravens, what do you do about that?
You have to make sure you block out. You have to block out. You have to make them run offense, and you can't give them anything easy in and around the basket. If you do that, you'll have an opportunity to compete in this game. If you let them become bullies on the backboard, it's going to be a long night, because not only will they punish you on the glass, but you start to commit fouls, or you start to give up open threes because they're offensive rebounding. Again, the keys in this game, they're going to be transition defense. Can you make Christ the King play 5-on-5? Can you make them defend more than 1 to 2 passes? Can you make them stay solid and finish the possession with a defensive rebound? Conversely, for St. Raymond, if you can make sure that Christ the King is playing 5-on-5 offense, where you can make them have multiple passes in a possession. You have to make sure that this game doesn't get ugly and you control the tempo.
Well, it's a great crowd on hand for Game 2. And we're glad you're with us here on SUVtv and HBCU League Pass Plus for St. Raymond and Christ the King. Coach, you were part of this rivalry a couple years ago. What's this all about, right? St. Raymond against Christ the King.
This boils down to one who wants it more. I don't care what the record is. If both teams can be undefeated, both teams can be winless. This is about bragging rights. This is about pride. This is about wanting, who's the best in the state, not just the city of New York, but who's the best in the state. This rivalry has been going on since the 80s and even early on before that. And I'm telling you, the talent that's come through these two institutions, these two buildings have been tremendous, especially when you talk about the national ramifications in terms of going to universities, but also just in terms of being the #1 program in the state. Everyone looks at, or at least those kids look at New York State as being the end-all and be-all. So if you could be the end-all and be-all in the state that you think is the toughest, that's what those are the bragging rights.
Well, we are set to begin Game 2. It is Chin Fong Pong against Jairij Cole on the tap. Christ the King in the white, St. Raymond in the orange, and we are underway. This is Dwayne Pierce trying to get to the rim. He was stripped. Trying to get the ball back is Devin Vanterpool underneath, and quickly St. Raymond will look to counter back the other way with Ty Turnage, just a sophomore at 5'10", but he is a tremendous player. Dunk was missed. Back the other way, Brandon Williams, who we talked about earlier with the floater, no good. And very quickly the pace has turned up to start this basketball game.
So again, St. Raymond's can't let this game get helter-skelter. They can't let the Christ the King athletes have a dent in this game. And right now, again, Ty Turnage, young sophomore point guard, you got to be careful not to over-penetrate, especially in the land of the Giants.
This is Devin Vanterpool, 3-star recruit in this class, not yet committed, but has offers from schools like Manhattan and Robert Morris, drawing some high major interest as well. Dwayne Pierce on the floater, that's good. The 6'6" junior guard, just outside the top 100 in his class, according to 24/7.
I think he can play anywhere in the country. He gets his mind to it. He has everything that you need. He has everything that you want. He has size, he has skill, he has ability. And again, when you watch, that wasn't an easy shot. It's, a pull-up kind of runner floater.
Along with Pierce, it's Williams, Pong, Vanterpool, Alston in the starting five, but a turnover here. Ty Turnage on the reverse, couldn't finish. Second chance, and the layup good for Brandon Storrs Jr., just a sophomore and a guy with a lot of upside for St. Raymond.
Brandon Storrs Jr. is one of the best sophomores in the country at 2025. You talk about Brandon Storrs, Ty Turnage, two young guys, but they're the heart and soul of this St. Raymond's team. And like I said, Elijah Cherry with a big-time rebound. But Amir, you watching these guys in transition, that's what Ty Turnage does. You know what? Maybe he's a little – maybe that shot, he kind of rushed. But I'm just telling you, in transition, if you let him get to that corner, he's going to knock shots in. He's going to knock shots in. He's going to do a great job. And I'm looking at it, the pace kind of favors Christ the King, but it's 2-2. Brandon Storrs on the line to try to change the score. But Brandon Storrs is one of the best players in 2025 as a sophomore. He's just so productive, one of the most productive players in his class.
It's a really young team that St. Ray's has, and kind of an opportunity against a much older team today to prove themselves. And I think the best times are certainly ahead for this program with this specific group.
Yeah, especially just trying to get those guys to buy in.
Brandon Williams can't hit. Pong fighting for the rebound. St. Raymond's comes away with it.
And again, just talking about having an opportunity to defensive rebound. We haven't talked about Vanterpool. He does a great job. When you watch these guys, again, you got to make them run offense.
Vanterpool, tough fadeaway. He doesn't get the roll, and it's taken back the other way by Amir Moore.
One and done. And that's how you have to finish defensive plays off with the rebound.
A block inside by Pierce, but it bounced right to Moore. He missed. Still loose underneath, and Vanterpool eventually takes it. Brandon Williams, the UCLA signee, gives it up for Markel Alston. Pong on the putback, no. And we remain still at just 3-2 in favor of St. Ray's, almost 3 minutes in.
I think these guys are trying to, they're getting the jitters out. Been a little bit too fast. While Christ the King's coming in with three subs early in the first quarter.
Fake on the three from Cherry, and he stepped out of bounds, so it'll go back the other way. Colin Fang checks in for St. Ray's, and you mentioned 3 new players checking in for Christ the King. Taheen Oliver Jr. in for the first time, as well as Kyan Anthony. And Brandon Gardner, the St. John's signee, in for the first time. I mean, you have a guy going to St. John's, a senior, who's not even starting for you. That tells you about the talent that Christ the King has.
Yeah, and again, my point, if St. Raymond's doing an incredible job of making sure that it's one and done. I'm impressed with that because, again, this Christ the King team, they can beat you up on the glass. And that was my major concern coming in. Can St. Raymond make Christ the King defend? Can they make them make mental mistakes on the defensive end? And can they also get back in transition to make them play 5-on-5 and have them run offense?
Now, you wouldn't necessarily think there would be as many jitters for Christ the King. They just played a big-time showcase game the other day against Sierra Canyon and lost, but it's another big-time spot for them to be playing in as Ty Turnage, the sophomore point guard, gives it a 5-2 lead for St. Ray's.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, if you let Ty get to that spot, and this is what I'm talking about, how is Christ the King going to defend, right? What are they going to do?
Turnage again getting his hands in the passing lane and has the steal. Turnage gives it up to a running and streaking Brandon Storrs, and a 5-point lead for the Ravens.
Those two guys, they're going to be in the Catholic High School Athletic Association for a very long time. And
Kyan Anthony lost it.
And part of it is
Storrs rejected. It's a foul, though. And the foul is offensive against Storrs.
Again, that's a tough call because, again, as I'm watching him move, I think sometimes the angle that an official takes, it looks a certain way, but, you got to allow a guy to, come up and come straight down. He's allowed that. When a guy's sliding, I think it's not a dangerous play, but you just thought you can't reward that as an official because if you address it early, they're not going to do that later on in the game.
Pierce trying to feed it inside to Williams. Good no-look pass for Gardner. Maybe that'll get Christ the King going.
But again, you can't double team, and he never picked. It was a live dribble. You can't double team. You got to double team when that guy uses his dribble. At that point, guys don't pass it as well.
Amir Moore being guarded by Kyan Anthony, trying to get his own miss and throw it off Anthony. Ends up with Fang. And we have a foul on the floor against Christ the King, and that goes against Brandon Williams.
And that's the luxury of having the team that you have. You take Brandon Williams out, you bring Brandon Gardner in. You take both those guys out, you bring in Pong. You have the luxury of having 3 guys 6'9" that you can rotate. You can play all 3 together. You can play them for one another. Again, this is. He has the luxury, Coach Arbitella has the luxury of having some big-time players, in big-time spots. That's a big-time move by Brandon Storrs Jr.
Storrs off to a real good start today. He has 7 of the 9 points for St. Ray's in the first quarter, and they have a 5-point lead with less than 2.5 to go. Taheen Oliver Jr. again being defended by Turnage. Williams for 3, got it.
Pick and pop, and again, when you talk about who Brandon Williams is, that's a perfect example. He's 6'9". He sets a great screen. They have to help. They throw back, 1-2 step. He knocks a 3 down. So what he does, he stretches that floor. He really stretches the floor.
Storrs again hits it. He is red hot in the first quarter. Storrs Jr. with 9. It's a 4-point lead for St. Ray's. Kyan Anthony.
So again, when you watch Brandon Williams, you know, he's able to put the ball on the floor. That's a tough shot.
But he hits it anyway. And Storrs kind of put his hand up like, if he's going to make that, what am I supposed to do?
But again, a contested shot. I've watched these guys for such a long time. They've played with the Gauchos, New York City Gauchos, since they were about 10 years old. So it's pretty funny to watch them now one-on-one. Good, you know, I'm watching.
And Storrs drew the foul.
And these guys are going to compete. They're going to battle. They are going to give everything that they have to. They're not giving an inch. I mean, think about this: the first quarter, right? There's been 8 players that's played so far.
Yeah, Christ the King looking more like a hockey team than a basketball team with all these substitutions. 1:10 to go. 3 no good for Amir Moore, and a foul on the rebounding action against Kamari White.
I would say this, George Lopez, I'm not sure if he gets a lot of credit at St. Raymond's in terms of him coaching. You know, like I'm watching him go side out. I'm watching him go underneath out of bounds, and they're getting great shots. They're missing him, but they're getting great shots. You know, they're executing. I think that, you know, that's a telltale sign that Christ the King has to eventually, they got to be able to guard.
Markel Alston into the corner. Pierce on the drive. Reverse layup is good.
Yeah. Again, one of the best wings in the country. He's just got to say to himself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to dictate how good I'm going to be, because this is going to be interesting to see.
Storrs met at the rim. It's rejected. Pong back the other way, and it was given away. Taken back. We have a foul, though, at midcourt against Christ the King.
I mean, think about that right now. In a high school basketball game, you got 2 6'9" guys who are super athletic, who can defend, who can switch, who can make perimeter shots. It's some schools in the country who don't have 1, let alone 2 playing at the same time.
There are college teams that have trouble getting 6'9" guys on the floor. Shot clock is turned off. Christ the King with the lead. 3 for Najee Best is good, and it puts St. Ray's back ahead.
Now, again, my point, man, great execution, great play call, and an incredible young shooter. Like, this kid's a freshman. I've watched him shoot, and
Gardner lays it in, and we are tied at 14 after the first quarter.
Dogfight.
That was a really fun 8 minutes of basketball. The Stars showing out. Brandon Gardner for Christ the King. And on the other side, Ty Turnage and Brandon Storrs Jr. for St. Ray's. All level after 1 in the battle in New Jersey.
Go. Playtime mode is the big league. Go. Playtime mode is the big league. Go. Playtime mode is the big league.
This game is presented by HBCU League Pass Plus, 24/7 live and on-demand coverage of your favorite HBCU sports. Try it for free now by downloading the HBCU League Pass Plus app.
Ah, humbug.
Happy holidays, Mr. Scrooge.
I can barely get reception outside the old town center.
You need a better network. 'Tis the season to switch to Verizon.
Tis?
Tis. You get a free 5G phone when you do.
Free phone?
Plus, Verizon gives you another great gift.
Oh, well, the more gifts, the merrier. For me.
Oh, Scrooge.
This season, only Verizon gives you a free 5G phone and $100 off Xbox All Access with Xbox Series S.
Wow.
Only on the network America relies on. Verizon.
We're back inside Jersey Mike's Arena in Piscataway. A 14-14 score after 1 quarter between Christ the King and St. Raymond's here on SUVtv and HBCU League Pass Plus. Justin Galanti and Book Richardson, glad to be with you and our entire crew Game 2 of 4 today in the battle in New Jersey. And, Coach, that was a really, really good first quarter. No surprise with teams of these caliber.
Yeah, I'm telling you throw the records out the door. You know, this is about pride. This is about having an opportunity to impose their will. And again, like I said, Brandon Stores Jr., man, having an opportunity to be one, trying to be one of the best in the country, not just one of the best in the city, and watching his growth, watching his maturity. They used to. I tell you what, when he was younger, let's say about 4 years ago, he was a little shorter and he was a little heavier. His nickname was the Pizza Box, and what he's done a tremendous job of working on his body. He's done a tremendous job of understanding the game. And again, like I said, he's imposed his will on his game. Of the 16 points, I think he has 11.
Pong and a tie-up after the inbound, and that'll send it back to St. Raymond. You went through your keys for the Ravens to stay in this game at the top. How do you feel they executed those in the first quarter?
So far, so good. Like I said, in and around the rim, they're at a huge disadvantage because of the size. But again, they got to make sure that they're making Christ the King run offense, multiple passes. Right now, even defensively, defensively, they have to make sure that they keep guys in front of them. One shot.
It was ripped away from Kai and Anthony there by Amir Moore, who goes right at him. He was stripped, though. It'll stay with St. Ray's.
And pick their spots in transition. Right now, the pace of this game really suits St. Raymond.
It'll be more to inbound here. Over the top for Jyreach Cole. Amir Moore flying to the rim, can't finish. Loose ball, though, is out of bounds, and it's Christ the King basketball.
But again, just like when you watch what's happening, having an opportunity for multiple shots at the basket, who's outworking who, it feels like a St. Raymond's game. It feels like a St. Raymond's game. It's muddied up. They're going to make them make plays.
Gardner lost it out of bounds.
Right? Being solid, and that's what I mean. Being solid. I'm going to keep my body in front of yours. I'm going to make you score over me. I'm going to make you use your talent to take advantage of what I can do, which is I'm not 6'9", you are.
What's the most important thing you tell players about defending when you're giving up size?
You have to force them out. You can't let them be comfortable.
Turnage hits the three.
Again, I'm telling you, if you give him an opportunity to get his feet set, it's almost in. He's one of the best shooters in the country. He's one of the best young players in the country. And again, I have to add, this kid, man, he just turned 15 years old.
Dwayne Pierce shuffled the feet, but able to finish anyway.
But you can't let him do that. He's just too talented. Dwayne Pierce, he's too talented. He's one of the best in the country. You can't give him that.
Pierce has already received offers from St. John's, Missouri, Florida State, among some other Power 5 programs. And a block from the backside by Brandon Williams. Christ the King wants to run. It's Williams, and he lost it. Another turnover forced by St. Ray's. They've really done a nice job keeping Christ the King out of transition.
Keeping him out of transition, but again, making him play 5-on-5 and now executing. Because right now, if you look at the team who's probably favored, it's Christ the King.
Moving screen there against Cole. No, excuse me, timeout is taken with 5:18 to go in the second quarter. I mean, you're right. You just look at the breakdown of the two rosters, and you have all these high major commits and offers on the Christ the King side, and that's going to be true of all the guys for St. Raymond on the other side, but maybe a year and a half from now.
Conversely,
take a look at some of the notes about this Christ the King program, the most Catholic city championships than any other school. Kai and Anthony on this team, Devin Vanderpool, his dad, a longtime NBA assistant, and the likes of Speedy Claxton, Lamar Odom, Jose Alvarado. You look at the women's side, Sue Bird, Tina Charles also went to Christ the King. It is they call it famed Christ the King for a reason, right?
I tell you what, and you're missing two big-time McDonald's All-American guards in 1990, Khalid Reeves, who went to the University of Arizona, and Derek Phelps, who went to the University of North Carolina. And when I tell you, as an oversight, you can't forget those two guys because, again, they were huge staples in terms of New York City basketball and big-time guards. And I say that as a St. Raymond guy. They were incredible.
Out of the timeout, a 3-point lead for St. Ray's with just over 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. Glad you're with us here on SUVtv. Entry pass for Stores. Trying to draw a foul, instead missed the tough shot. Gets his own rebound, and it's around and out. And that's out of bounds, and will go to Christ the King. But back to the earlier point, Coach. It's a team in St. Ray's that's probably 16 months away from its prime, but they are still uber talented as anyone you'll see. They got the steal here.
And those are the things, like, especially with the young team, St. Raymond, when you talk about Brandon Stores Jr. and you talk about Ty Turnage, they're no longer underclassmen. And I say they started every game as freshmen last year. Mm-hmm. And right now, when you talk about big games, they've played in so many big games. Same as we talked about Christ the King. Those big games, think about where they've been already. Like, Christ the King's played in London. They've played in California. So, like, right now, and they play big-time summer league basketball.
How about Pong going end to end?
And see, here's what I'll get upset at as a coach. Amir, more he has to take that charge. He got out the way, right? He got out the way, and instead of taking the charge and it's a foul going the other way, he swipes and it's a layup. Those are the things that you can't allow Christ the King layups around the rim. Because, again, you give Pong an opportunity to see the basketball go in, man, he's a monster.
Loose ball taken by Christ the King off the miss from Elijah Cherry. Oliver Jr., no-look pass. Vanderpool triple puts Christ the King back ahead.
Transition 3. But that came from a terrible shot. It came from a terrible shot, and now you go on the other end. Look at the shot that you took versus the shot you gave up. And I'm telling you, imagine taking a charge on Pong, and you are saying instead of giving them 2 points, you take a charge. It takes the momentum away. It crushes you. It's a personal foul. It's a turnover.
The majority of this game has been led by St. Raymond, but right now, Christ the King is up by 2. Stores giving up a few inches against Pong. Left the shot short, and it'll stay with St. Ray's.
And again, as Brandon becomes older, he'll understand, like, playing in angles, right, against size, playing in angles, getting to his spot. Not letting Pong's height and length affect him. Understanding, like, listen, you know what? I got to get, I have to get him moving to a side instead of just letting him, play straight up and straight down.
Turnage, who's hit a couple threes already. Stores is fouled on the way in.
I tell you what, Markel Austin is one of the best on-ball defenders, at least in this city. Definitely, when I've had an opportunity to be around that young man, I've watched him play, I've watched him grow up. He's as tough as nails. Again, like, he embodies this rivalry. He really embodies it, and I'm telling you, like, that's going to be a key to see if he can heat the basketball up, on the St. Raymond's guards.
Talk about some of the sophomores in this game. Is Alston right on cue, gets the steal, it's blocked. Cherry got it. Another chance, Vanderpool couldn't stuff it back in. It'll stay with Christ the King. But what a recovery there by Elijah Cherry.
And again, Todd turned to set it up. Swipe for the ball. Again, those 50-50 plays, those hustle plays, it's another possession. You don't want to give Christ the King multiple possessions on the offensive end.
Foul there away from the basketball. But, you have guys like Kai and Anthony and Ty Turnage, who are super talented sophomores, but you look at them, their body type, they look like sophomores. Then you have Alston, and on the other side you have Stores that you would not believe they're sophomores if you look at them, right?
No, that's an incredible analogy. And then Colin Colin Feng, number 30, he's a sophomore as well.
Yeah.
So, when you look at those guys, and I look at it in a positive light, they have room to grow in terms of development physically. And the guys like Brandon Stores, as he can trim down, he can look a certain way and be a little bit more athletic. I think he'll have an opportunity to play anywhere in the country.
Inbounds pass comes to Bryce Merchant, and he lays it in. The senior just checked in for the first time, and Christ the King has its largest lead at 4.
Think about that. With 2:33 to go, they're on pace to score 50. And I would say if I'm St. Raymond's, I'm really, really, really happy about that, because now guess what? I can play I can hopefully play in transition myself and get some easy looks.
2:16 to go here in the second quarter. Much different than the first game we saw today, Coach. That was much more free-flowing, fewer fouls, more scoring. This one has been really tight and physical throughout.
This has been a heavyweight fight.
Stores from the elbow, too long, and Pong grabs the board.
Again, great rebound. Those guys, you're one and done. When they keep you off the glass.
Vanterpool skips it into the corner for an Alston 3. That's an air ball, but it goes right to Pierce, who lays it in with the foul.
But part of it, as you trap in the middle of the floor, that's very confusing, because you're trapping in the middle of the floor to get it out of his hands, where Dwayne Pierce can see either side. As he threw a Vanderpool, he got to the rim, they collapsed, he kicked corner for a wide open 3, and guess what? What happened? Offensive rebound. So again, that play started because you're trapping at the top for no reason. Be solid.
So Pierce completes the three-point play, and the lead is now 7 for Christ the King. And if you think about St. Ray's, right, you've played such a good half, you've led the majority of it. You would hate to go into the break down 7, 8, 9, 10 points, because you've played much better than that.
Yeah, you have. And what's happening is that's a testament to Christ the King on defense. Look at them. They are in every spot. There's help. Look at block shots. They're blocking, and now they're in transition.
Merchant on the run out, and that is goaltending against Stores.
So there's a frustration that it's like, man, I'm doing everything that I can do, and I get to that rim, and again, there's elite level size. No one talks about Vanterpool as a defender. Like, you look at his body type, extremely long arms, long limbs, and again, he's bought in. Like, he's the tip of the spear defensively. I mean, you watch him. He's ball hawking. Just look at him. They're disruptive. The shots that St. Raymond's are getting are tough shots.
That's a big one, though, for Stores to get this back to a 6-point game, and a timeout taken by St. Ray's. How about this whole stretch, though, for Christ the King has been without Brandon Williams or Brandon Gardner on the court.
And think about this. When you talk about where does this thing start, well, it starts on the defensive end. It starts with ball pressure, right? I talked about being the tip of the spear. Vanterpool, he is heating the basketball up. Markel Austin, he's heating the basketball up. And when I say heating the basketball up, he's defending it, so he's being so disruptive that they're not allowing you to run offense.
So 1:05 to go here in the second quarter. Don't forget, 2 more games today after this one on SUVtv and HBCU League Pass Plus. Our next one will be the Patrick School against Roselle Catholic. Big-time New Jersey rivalry. And then Our Savior Lutheran and Life Center Academy will finish out the night here at Jersey Mike's Arena.
Going a little press action, change of pace.
Vanderpool goes over the top for Pong, and off the ball fake, he gets an easy layup.
And you know what I'm telling you, that's what I was just about to worry about. If they, because of their size, they just throw it over the press. You know, that's the easiest shot that you can get. And again, you talk about being solid, you know, switching things up where really your issue is just being solid. You think about you gave up a 3-point play because you're trapping in the middle. You now give up a layup because you're pressing. And again, guess what? It was just 28-22. It was a 6-point game. You gave them an opportunity without having to run offense.
1-and-1 here for Amir Moore, and he leaves it short. And with about 3 seconds between the shot clock and the game clock, Christ the King with the basketball. Oliver Jr. tries to feed the post. Pierce out of a double team. Vanderpool, tough catch inside. Stores thought he got that clean, but it's a foul.
But again, you double the basketball. They get out of the trap. They get a layup at the rim. 19 seconds to go. Imagine if you play solid, it's a shot clock. You have an opportunity to get a shot. Instead of being 31 or 32, it's 28-22 with your ball, and you got a chance to be down 4 instead of 7 or 8. So it's one of those things where, you know, again, you'll hear me, I'm preaching to the choir, but be solid. And what that means is whatever your base defense is, whatever you believe in, be solid. Keep guys in front of you. Don't give anyone an advantage. Don't give them an angle.
Told you Vanderpool's dad, David, a longtime NBA assistant. He was also just inducted into the Hall of Fame in the athletic department at St. Bonaventure, where he played. And his son, now a senior in high school, will be playing somewhere next year. Hits 1 of 2 free throws, and the lead is 9 for Christ the King. DeCourcy Corley and Jaden Ramirez both in for the first time for Christ the King for this last defensive possession.
I tell you, Dave Vanderpool, he's one of the really good guys that I know. You know, tremendous son, but like I said, really good guy, great dad. Has done an incredible job with his son. You don't get a shot off.
Najee Best just lost that out of bounds. So one last chance for Christ the King here. Inbound comes to Pierce from half court at the buzzer, just short.
Yeah,
and
good.
That ends the first half of play here from Jersey. Christ the King trailed for a good portion of that first half, but they go into the break up by 9. We'll take a break and be back with you shortly for the second half as you're watching the battle in New Jersey on SUVtv and HBCU League Pass Plus.
Welcome back to Earth.
Thanks, it was pretty life-changing.
Dude, it was 8.5 minutes.
I didn't even get to finish my burrito.
Technology lets you vacation in space, but to get work done on Earth, you need more than technology. You need CDW.
So with the Cisco hybrid work environment, we can deliver the same network experience to all your offices. Space spaghetti. Securely connecting your team from anywhere.
Houston, we have a solution.
We get it, Greg. You've been to space.
Cisco makes hybrid work possible. CDW.
Hey, babe, meet us at the bottom of the trail.
Oh, man. Hey.
Open up. The redesigned Chevy Silverado. With a sophisticated high-tech interior,
open the door.
It's easy to forget it's a truck.
Thanks.
Nice truck.
It was.
Find new style. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
At HBCUs, there's no limit to who we can be. Black and inspired and thriving. black and magnetic and sing. From the classrooms to the quad, our passion is our purpose. We are leaders and legacy. So when you look at what we accomplish next, you'll know where it started. For who you are and who you want to be, we're here.
Go. Playtime mode is the big league. Go. Playtime mode is the big league. Go. Playtime mode is the big league.
This game is presented by HBCU League Pass Plus. 24/7 live and on-demand coverage of your favorite HBCU sports. Try it for free now by downloading the HBCU League Pass Plus app.
Championship in the trap. It's Rolly a trophy, I hold it up. Got me one. They let us get up enough points, it's a wrap. Gonna shine every time it's an open look.
We are back inside Jersey Mike's Arena, getting set for the second half between Christ the King and St. Raymond in Game 2 of today's quadruple header in the Battle in New Jersey. Alongside Book Richardson, I'm Justin Galanti and our entire outstanding crew. So glad to be bringing you all the action today on SUVtv and HBCU League Pass Plus. Coach, that was a really interesting first half because if you take, the 16 minutes, I would say 12 of them were probably played the way that St. Raymond wanted. But, Christ the King's so talented and so veteran compared to St. Raymond at the moment that they were able to kind of just use a late run and find a 2-point deficit into a 9-point lead at the break.
Justin, this thing is going to come down to who runs their style better, who can do what they do better than the other team can do what they do. And what I mean by that is, if St. Raymond wants to press, then guess what? They're going to have to be really good at it. They can't go a possession, 2 possessions, and do 2 different defenses and give up 5 to 6 points. Because that's a 9-point lead. You talk about now, instead of being down 9, maybe you're up 2 or 3 or you're down 4 or 5. But again, this thing can get out the way this thing can get out of hand if you allow Christ the King to score without running offense. So I look at this and you say, well, hey, I gave him 31. You know what? Imagine if you just get 22 and they've got 26. Man, you feel much better versus giving up 31 and you say they didn't run a lot of offense. They didn't. You bailed on the charge. You turned it over a couple of times. It's just one of those deals where if you're just solid and you do what you're supposed to do in terms of every man doing their job, instead of it being a 9-point game, maybe it's 5 or 6, maybe.
Well, before the game, we talked about the 3-6-9 guys of Williams, Gardner, and Pong for Christ the King. And of those 3, Pong probably had the best first half, but it wasn't that trio that carried Christ the King in their big run. I thought Markel Alston was really impressive as well as Dwayne Pierce, and I think Devin Vanderpool really stood out as well.
I tell you what, Dwayne Pierce is really good on offense. Vanderpool, like I said, he was the head of the spear. Him, Markel Alston, what they did was they took St. Raymond's out of their offensive sets, and they made this game a little helter-skelter where St. Raymond's couldn't run their stuff, and they got out in transition, meaning they, Christ the King, because of the ball pressure, the heat, and I'm telling you, at that point, St. Raymond's was running stuff. They were getting things in transition. When Christ the King made them play half-court offense, man, it was a little bit different because after you beat the first line of defense and you're sped up, you're now dealing with 6'9", 6'9", 6'9", and then around the basket.
On the St. Ray's side, big first half from Ty Turnage as well as Brandon Stewart Jr., and it feels like those 2 sophomores are going to have to play a really key role if we're going to see a second half comeback for the Ravens, I should say, out of the Bronx. It'll be Christ the King basketball, though, to start the second half of play.
Ty Turnage and Brandon Stores, they're going to have to go out. They're going to have to play out of their mind. They're going to have to play to the point where, hey, we are the best 2 players on the court. But they are going to have to bring it like right now because you can't give that play up.
Vanderpool fakes the pass, and he was blocked at the rim by Jyreach Cole.
Yeah, I'm again, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, like I'm looking at the size. When you look at Vanderpool, when you look at Pong, when you look at Brandon Williams, like it's formidable. And now, guess what? Defensively,
Amir Moore getting to the rim and one. That's a big bucket for Amir Moore.
I tell you, Amir did a great job of staying patient, and I love him like that. When he's again, he's downhill, he's patient, and he has a plan. He has a plan. But what you did, you made Christ the King guard individually, and at that point they ran in or they didn't help, and you got to the rim and won.
Can't hit the free throw though, so it's a 7-point game, and Vanderpool takes this ahead for Brandon Williams, who signed with UCLA. People thought it was a bit of an interesting hire, right, when the Bruins brought in Mick Cronin, and it took a year, and people out in Westwood have bought in on what Mick has brought from Cincinnati out to UCLA, another top 10 team for him this year. And that is an offensive foul against Pong. You said in the first half, right, they backed off on taking the charge. This time, not the case. And Jairich Cole already has a block and has taken a charge in the first minute and 6 seconds of this third quarter.
I tell you, I think Coach Cronin has done a tremendous job. He and Coach Savino, coming back east to be able to get Brandon Williams and looking at the big picture, watching him, his overall development, watching, again, man, just ball hawking.
Tough drive inside, but Elijah Cherry was a little out of control.
And this is what you have to do if you're St. Raymond. You have to get back. You have to make them play 5-on-5.
Pong corner triple, too long. Rebound kept alive, and it's Dwayne Pierce. Hard drive inside, and another offensive foul.
And guess what? It's Amir Moore, who in the first half, he got out of the way. Now he took it. And again, you talk about great coaches. You talk about adjustments. Coach Lopez had to talk about that at halftime and think about it. It's been addressed. 2 charges already taken in the first 2 minutes of the third quarter.
So again, not a lot of scoring out of the locker room, just like we saw in the first quarter. This is out of bounds off of Alston. And Kyan Anthony will check back in for Christ the King. Tell me a little bit about Kyan as a player. Has some room to fill out. He's only a sophomore. Everybody knows the last name, so the headlines will be there. But what do you think of him right now? Currently rated number 62 in his class, and he was just offered by his dad's alma mater at Syracuse.
Incredibly skilled, incredibly talented. Watching him, get better, and watching him have this growth spurt, it's been pretty cool. When you talk about the progression that that he'll have.
Williams in transition tried to give it up for Anthony, but it is taken by Amir Moore, who's had a good start to the third.
And I'm telling you, I love watching Kyan, his confidence. Wow, that's a deep 3, Ty.
And it is good.
That's a deep 3, I'm telling you. In the first half, we talked about if his feet are set, it is in. He has incredible confidence. It's a 4-point game, and you're watching St. Raymond stick around. And part of the keys to the game, making Christ the King play offense, making them execute offense, I should say.
Brandon Williams skips it into the corner for Alston. And that's off the side of the backboard, but it goes right to Williams, who's fouled.
You can't teach 6'9", 220. You can't teach that.
And you can't teach luck, and that was a lucky pass, right?
You've been spot on. I'm telling you, this one, you are a master.
I appreciate it. So 2 free throws here for Gardner. So watching Turnage play, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, he's listed at 5'10". We've seen so many dynamic, dominant, sub-6-foot guards at the college level. When I say sub-6-foot guard, who's the first guy that jumps to your mind?
When you talk about sub-6-foot guards,
guys that have really been able to have success despite a lack of size.
I tell you, guys like Jose Alvarado, and I know that's tough because he's a Christ the King guy.
Yeah, and you know what?
But you give credit where credit is due.
Vanterpool, and one.
Can't let him get in transition. Can't let him get in transition. Ty Turnage I'll take you to a New Jersey great who's also a New York City legend. Kiki Clark, St. Peter's legend. Big-time scorer, sub-6-foot guard, one of the best-looking, jump shots in the country, and scored a tons, scored in bunches. That very reminiscent of if Ty gets it going, like I said, you look at what he's doing as a sophomore. He can really get it going. So now, as they're trying to run offense, I'm just telling you, when you look at Markel Alston, man, he is a ball hawk. Like, you just look at him. You look at him.
Amir Moore can't hit the pull-up. Anthony had the rebound. It was ripped away, though, by Kamari White. And possession off the tie-up will stay, with St. Ray's trailing by 8 with just over 4.5 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Think about this, Josh. Kamari White's a freshman. I mean, like, to be able to play in this game as a freshman to play in this as a junior and senior is hard, but as a freshman to be able to compete is really tough.
Ty Turnage lost the basketball, and it's showtime for Brandon Williams. And he traveled. Oh, he got a little excited, I guess.
I tell you what, I don't know if he traveled or not, but again, no, he did. How about that? He did. That was an old NBA three-stepper. That was that would have been great for plays of the night. But I guess the official, he called it. Great call. Great call. I'm not sure if I'd had the heart to call that on the breakaway, but great call. He was right.
I was going to say, it's tough to make that call, but he did travel.
Yeah, no, he did.
Another tough pull-up jumper is short from Amir Moore. And Vanterpool looking to push the pace back the other way.
Transition.
Kyan Anthony left it short. Pong the offensive rebound. Hard dribble to the rim. Lays it in.
But again, guess what? How does that happen? Transition offense. They get a three. And guess what? Now it's just scrambling.
Turnage with the left hand on the right side of the rim.
But again, you have to, this is an 8-point game. If you're solid, you're making guys guard, but you can't come down and take a bad shot or a poor shot. And then guess what? Now they're in transition. Like now he's downhill. He's feeling it.
And the layup is good for Brandon Williams. Williams now with 9 points. Storrs leads all players with 14. But Storrs has 3 fouls. And he has been limited so far in the third quarter. A 10-point lead for Christ the King. Turnage trying to get around Anthony, but he stepped on the baseline, and it's a turnover.
And as Todd as he gets a little older, just picking your spots and understanding, that baseline isn't always good for you or good to you, especially being sub 6 feet and you're in the land of the trees. Runner, floater, or just pulling basketball back out.
Well, game 1 today was fun. Kingsword Oxford got the win behind 33 points and 14 rebounds from Gavin Griffiths. Game 2 has been tight throughout. 2:40 to go, third quarter. 10-point lead for Christ the King. Storrs almost had it. Brandon Williams fading back and finishing.
I'm just telling you, he's into it. He's into it. You watch him hit a three, even with that dunk, but he's into it. He's feeling a certain way. And again, he's a bigger guard. And right now, it's a 12-point game because look at the shots that they're getting versus the shots that St. Raymond's are getting.
And right now, Christ the King, as St. Ray's takes a timeout, Christ the King is shooting exactly 50% from the floor in this basketball game, and they're +7 on the glass so far. And that has led to a 12-point lead. Our next game is going to be a lot of fun, but let's talk about the St. Ray's program a little, Coach. Some great players have come through this school for sure.
Julius Hodge, I'm fortunate enough where I'm old enough where I know these guys, when I'm young enough that either I've coached them or played against them or with them. Julius Hodge, growing up in Harlem, we called him Jews of Harlem, arguably one of the best players in St. Raymond's history. You look at Allen Ray, and when you look at what those guys have done, like Darryl Truck Bryan, I had an opportunity to coach him with the New York Gauchos. Kareem Reed's actually on the bench with St. Raymond's right now. And Terrence Rencher, no one talks about. He's the all-time leading scorer at the University of Texas. And you have some other greats, like Eric Harris, Dana Dingle, who went on to do some really special and good things there. So again, like I said, just the lineage of great players that went to St. Raymond's, that played there. I always go back to the guys, the patriarchs, Darryl Reed, Eddie Rivera, Chucky Martin, who's assistant coach at Oregon, and Mike Thompson. Those guys were instrumental. Gary Massey. Those guys were instrumental for St. Raymond's being as powerful as as legendary as they've become.
What do you think that conversation was in the timeout between Coach Lopez and his team?
You guys got to play not only hard but smart. You guys have to make sure that you can't let it get away by being undisciplined. Run your stuff. You run your stuff, you'll be just fine. If you run your stuff, but it's got to be on the defensive end Can we get stops? Can we play in transition? Right, they are dogging the basketball.
And a foul here going against St. Ray's and Ty Turnage. He didn't like the call, but it turns out to be another turnover, the 14th in the basketball game for St. Ray's.
Yeah, that'll kill you. 14 times you don't have an opportunity. 14 times you don't have an opportunity to shoot the basketball.
And a travel in the backcourt as St. Ray's put that full court pressure back on and forced a turnover back the other way. Trying to get this under 10, right? Going into the fourth quarter.
That's exactly what we talked about. Getting it to single digits and now making a run and executing. But again, if you got to be able to score. You got to be able to score right now. That's a pretty good pull-up.
And Storrs gets his first 2 points in the second half. He leads all players with 16.
But look, look at the shot.
St. Ray's wants to push, but a pass over the head of Amir Moore.
15th turnover.
Vanterpool flying to the rim. Offensive foul.
Another offensive foul. But I'm just, again, you can't have a 3-on-1, 3-on-2 and turn the basketball over. You just can't do it. Those are shots that you don't have at the basket. You talk about this being a 10-point game. Imagine having 7 more shot attempts at the basket. You never, again, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you can't score it.
Here's Storrs. Just hit that last pull-up, this time trying to get to the rim. It's blocked by Gardner. Loose ball for Moore, though, and he is rejected, but a foul. Have to be impressed with Amir Moore. He has no fear giving up 8 inches there going to the rim.
None at all. And again, Amir just staying aggressive, being under control. You make these 2 free throws, and again, as we talked about, under a minute, third quarter, you have an opportunity to be down 8. You get a stop, you're going to get a chance to have the basketball again. So again, you get a stop, you get this thing 6. How good would you feel if you were St. Raymond's? This is amazing. You sub 169 guy out and you bring another one in. Again, that's amazing. I haven't seen the likes of that, since I've been in college.
That is a luxury to say the least. Yeah. 1 of 2 at the line there for Moore, who has 3 points in the game, just 1 of 8 from the field. Kyan Anthony gives for Pong, who throws it down!
But you can't give that up. That's a bad shot.
Storrs might have rushed it on the other end.
Yeah, that's a bad shot.
And a foul. And those are the sequences you look back on maybe later if you're St. Ray's. But how about this finish from Pong?
I tell you, I've seen that all summer. I've seen him with the Wrens, New York Renaissance AU program, and I watch him be one of the best wing forwards in the country. And I'm, when he does it, because again, he's so really good with the basketball.
And you also have to be impressed that he just had a monster dunk, and he could have tried to do something special / silly there, and he made the right play and gave the basketball up.
Made the right play to Gardner, and I would say this: Brandon Gardner hasn't been doing, hasn't had a lot of opportunities on the offensive end. So guess what? I'm going to get the big fella going. I'm going to give him an opportunity to watch the basketball go in and have him feel a part of this thing on offense, because guess what? He's done a tremendous job on the defensive end, and I need to find a way to make him feel like a part of it and get him going a little bit.
Gardner hits both free throws. He has 6, and the lead is back to 13 points. Amir Moore gives it up for Ty Turnage. 10 points for Turnage.
I mean, look at Brandon Gardner defending.
Storrs trying to work his way through, is blocked from the backside there by Pong. His second block and the 6th for Christ the King in the basketball game. 13 seconds with the shot clock turned off.
Tough around the rim.
Turnage a long 3 It's short,
Ty,
and it's
you can't
punched
do that.
ahead.
You can't do that, Ty.
And Kyan Anthony gets an easy deuce.
Again, you talk about discipline, transition defense, Ty Turnage. You have an opportunity to either get back or grab it. You do nothing. You give up an open layup. So again, now the lead balloons to 15.
A 6-0 run in the final 47 seconds of the third quarter makes it a 15-point Christ the King advantage after 3. We'll be back in just a moment here on SUVtv and HBCU League Pass Plus.
Humbug.
Happy holidays, Mr. Scrooge.
I can barely get reception outside the old town center.
You need a better network. 'Tis the season to switch to Verizon.
Tis?
Tis. You get a free 5G phone when you do.
Free phone?
Plus, Verizon gives you another great gift.
Oh, well, the more gifts, the merrier. For me.
Oh, Scrooge.
This season, only Verizon gives you a free 5G phone and $100 off Xbox All Access with Xbox Series S.
Wow.
Only on the network America relies on. Verizon.
Start of the fourth quarter, and it's a 15-point lead for Christ the King over St. Ray's here in Game 2 of the day in the Battle of New Jersey. A miss there from Kyan Anthony, and Pong didn't have the putback. So St. Ray's trying to mount a comeback here, Coach, in the fourth quarter, and Amir Moore would have to be a big part of it, and he will shoot 2 free throws.
Yeah, and like I said, just trying to get downhill, trying to make, Christ the King defend your speed. I'm just worried about that play at half court, ending the third quarter. Instead of it being a 15-point game, maybe you stop it, it's a foul, but you don't give them a run out. You don't give a team the momentum going into a quarter, where now instead of being up 15, like I said, just these are the things that a young player, he's going to get better at. Ty's he's going to be much better at that, but those, the mental errors of just saying, hey, I'm the last line of defense. I try to take the basketball back, and now I do nothing. Versus, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be solid. Worst case scenario, I'll foul a guy, but I'm not gonna let him lay. I'm not gonna lay it up.
Taheen Oliver Jr. is fouled on the drive.
So it looks like they're trying to trap a little bit. St. Raymond's, that is. Excuse me.
Inbound comes to Pong, who has 8 points and 5 rebounds to go with 2 blocks in the game. Baseline jumper no good from Pierce. And here come the Ravens once again. Drive inside, but a shot out of control from Turnage.
It's just an overall bad shot when you look at.
Oh, the ball movement and the slam from Brandon Gardner.
Think about this, the shot that you get, the shot that Ty Turnage, the shot that you take versus what happens on the other end. And that's what we talked about in the first game. An undisciplined shot, a bad shot. No one touched the ball. You dribble. You shoot the basketball. You get your shot blocked, and it's a run out. That's what young guys, young guards have to understand. When you're mounting a comeback, it just has to be good possessions. It has to be good possessions.
20 to shoot here for St. Ray's. Storrs had 14 in the first half. He only has 2 in the second half.
Another bad shot. Brandon Storrs,
Pong, and Storrs called for the foul, and Pong came down awkwardly on his ankle.
Hope he's all right. Hope he just twisted it. Yeah, he turned it bad. He turned it.
Pong Among right now a 3-star recruit in the class of 2024.
That's unbelievable. Again,
those things change.
But I always said this as a longtime coach on every level. When I look at these guys who are ranking these kids, where are you ranking them? When do you see them? How often do you see them? What's your credibility? How do you base it? Because like this kid, when you look at him, this young man, this young student athlete, he is all of 6'8", 6'9". He can go left, he can go right. He's got great touch. He makes plays. He can defend multiple positions. So you're telling me because of like again, he's a 3-star? And I guess, Book, it doesn't matter. Well, if it doesn't matter, then don't rank him.
It does matter. I mean, you can't say it doesn't matter.
Because again, because some people say, well, Book, hey, it doesn't matter. Well, if it doesn't matter, right, then don't rank him.
Right.
So those are the things that, and it becomes important to the kids, and I just see it's just this spiraling downward process of they start to work for rankings, and I'm like, guys, it's so much bigger than that, But again, I'm on my soapbox because I know there's some pretty good guys who've done a great job of evaluating talent. Then it's just like, a 3-star, man. That's man. If he's a 3-star, I'm trying to see, those 5-star guys must be, they're going straight to the G League or OT. They're not going to college.
Well, we are going to see one in the next game today.
Yes, we are.
Mackenzie Mbako, right now the 5th-ranked recruit in this year's class, will be playing for John Shire at Duke. Will lead Roselle Catholic against the Patrick School in our next game. Still 6.5 to go here in game number 2 of the day. And by the way, as Turnage can't hit, that Roselle Catholic team, I hate to bring up rankings after you just said that, but they have 3 of the top 110 players in the class of 2023 in their starting lineup. Where we have a Duke commit, a UNC commit, and an Arizona State commit, who we will get to see in just a little bit.
And like I said, I've seen all 3 of those guys, and I definitely believe, like, wherever they're ranked, I believe in it just from the standpoint of I've watched them play, like, and those are no-brainers. Like Serge, Simeon Wilcher, he's a 5-star kid, right?
And a putback for Pierce plus the foul.
Pierce, I'm telling you, man, I'm a huge fan. I'm watching how how active he is. He's tough to deal with. And you go to some high schools and he's their starting center. On this team, he's their starting 2-guard. He's their starting 3-guard. Think about that luxury.
And the most important thing maybe is that this allows him to play a role that he's going to play in college.
Yes.
You look at our first game today, and Griffiths was incredible, right? But more often than not, he's going to be the tallest player in every game that he plays in high school. That's going to lead to him playing a different way than he's going to play in the Big Ten next year.
Yes. And I'm telling you, watching Griffin play earlier, he was really good with and without the basketball. And I think those are things that's going to translate for him, especially playing for Coach Peichel and his staff, and also playing in the Big Ten, because when you start to look at mobile wing forwards, they have an opportunity to impact the game in so many different ways. And when I say different games, I've watched him shoot the 3. I've watched him, shoot a pull-up. I've watched him attack the rim. I've watched him make plays for others and himself. So, again, we're going to watch him get bigger and stronger. And I think that
Merchant hits the 3, and it's a 21-point lead for Christ the King. Running away with this game in the second half. Good left-handed layup there by Brandon Storrs Jr. I'm going to tell you something now that's going to sound very odd to you, but it's true. So Griffiths, right? He's going to Rutgers next year. And we've talked a lot about Brandon Williams, who's going to UCLA next year. Those two are going to be conference rivals. You like that?
I love it. I love it.
3 from the corner is no good for Amir Moore.
I got some rankings for you. If there's 5 announcers better than you, I'd love to meet them.
I appreciate
I'm talking about nationally, internationally, on any level, baby.
I appreciate that.
Level. How about that for rankings?
It's been a lot of fun today, and I'm excited for the next 2 games as well. In transition, Kamari White couldn't finish, but a nice move there from the freshman.
Yeah.
What's it like? Let's talk about the differences. If we talk about the 2 games we've seen today, right? You look at a good Kingsword Oxford program, but Gavin Griffiths is a top 100 kid, but he is by far and away the best player on that team. As Merchant hits another 3. And then you have Christ the King, where basically the whole team's going D1. What's the difference maybe for a high school kid where you're having the opportunity, if you're Griffiths, to dominate every game, have the ball all the time, and no matter who you are, you're kind of just fitting a role for Christ the King, as Merchant couldn't hit that one?
So at Christ the King, you know, I think the biggest thing that's going
to be no basket because Stores was hanging on the rim. It's offensive interference.
I think when you're at Christ the King, we always talked about at the highest levels of college basketball, you want to compete every day in practice. You know, so that's what, iron sharpens iron. And I think with Griffith, what will happen is when he gets to college, because again, I definitely know he's coming from a pretty good program, but he's going to have an opportunity to compete, and I think he'll get better. Whereas at Christ the King, every single day, if you don't compete, you may lose your starting spot. You may lose a minute. You know, there are truly no days off. And I think those are the things that help you when you say, well, why do I go to a Christ the King? Well, I go to a Christ the King because I want to compete to be the best every single day. If I don't, I'm going to be embarrassed.
It reminds me of a conversation I was listening to the other day. It was an interview with Malik Monk, who's now with Sacramento, and he was saying, he played on a college team at Kentucky that had, the likes of De'Aaron Fox and a bunch of other 5-star guys. And he said, we all took lesser roles in college than we had in the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the case for these kids, right, at Christ the King.
Devin Booker.
Yeah.
It came off the bench. You talk about one of the perennial, top 10, top 20 players in the NBA, in the world. So when you look at that, that's the sacrifice that you give up. And I think also with those guys, if you would ask Malik, what would you give up to win? Right? What would you sacrifice to win? Because that's what it boils down to. When I don't care what anyone says, right? The rankings, because again, we laugh and joke about them, but there are a ton of really good people who can evaluate talent. But I'm telling you, when you win, and everyone puts that by your name, hey, that guy's a winner, he's a winner. You want him around. You want him around.
Both free throws good there for Elijah Cherry. The scoring balance for Christ the King really stands out in this game. 14 points for Bryce Merchant to lead their scorers, but Pierce has 12, Williams has 11, Pong has 8, Vanterpool has 7, Gardner has 8. Everybody getting into the mix in what is a 22-point lead in this New York City rivalry for Christ the King.
And part of it, again, just look at how Christ the King's scoring versus how St. Raymond's has to score.
It's right at the rim, time and time again in the second half. And the lead is now 24. That last basket was for Jalen Lewis, who just came in.
Think about it. I think there's 8 players that scored for Christ the King. Right, somewhere around there?
Yep, that's right.
It's 8 players that scored. And I'm watching this young St. Raymond's team. I got my brothers in the building. I'm watching this St. Raymond's team, and think about it, we alluded to it earlier. If you let this thing get out of hand, one shot in there in transition, and when you watch, Christ the King didn't run a ton of offense because they didn't have to. Kudos to them, they defended.
Hard foul there at midcourt against Kamari White.
And the young, the immaturity of St. Raymond's, where they are taking shots. I go back to a couple of shots that Ty Turnish had, a couple of shots that Brandon Stores had, a couple of shots that Amir Moore had. You talk about those guys taking shots. They are taking a shot with no pass attempt on a set defense. Just out hustling them right now.
Only 7 assists in the game for St. Raymond, so that sort of speaks to your point.
And that's what guys don't realize. Against this team, you have to move them. You have to execute. You have to make them feel like, oh, man, this is going to be a tough, like, again, there's no pass.
Ramirez had the last basket. This shot was missed by Moore. And Christ the King getting out in transition once again. Lewis, no-look pass for DeCourcy Corley.
So, again, it's that, it's the swipe by at half court. You can get the steal or just get back. And it was the same thing I talked about with Ty Turnage. When you chose to take yourself out the play to give up a layup. So now this thing has really gotten out of hand based on, hey, you know what? I'm going to fake go for the basketball, and I'm going to act like I'm trying to steal it, and I missed it, and now there's a 3-on-1 the other way.
Is that what they call eyewash?
Did I say top 5? You may be top 3, dead or alive.
Well, another timeout taken by St. Raymond. Let's touch quickly on our next game, as it's going to be the Patrick School against Roselle Catholic. Get a look at Mackenzie Mbako and Simeon Wilcher, the Watson brothers for Roselle Catholic, and a number of talented players, Sek Zongo, Anthony Gilkis, KJ Satterfield, Jaden Glover, and the Patrick School. I mean, that's kind of the New Jersey version of this New York rivalry we're seeing right now.
100%. By the way, Roselle Catholic was in a war yesterday against Gonzaga from D.C.
Yeah, that's WCAC down in DMV has its claim as maybe the best high school athletic conference in the country.
I would second that. When you look at like Steve Turner, man, he does such a tremendous job. I've been fortunate enough to see about 3 or 4 of his games, and you know he's an incredible coach. But that team, man, they have an incredible swagger about them. They have an incredible confidence about them. So again, that's I think 9 or 10 players have scored.
Since we talk about the DMV and WCAC guards, and I asked you that question about sub-6-foot guards who kind of dominated the college games, I'm going to throw one at you. It'll give away where I went to school, but whatever. Anthony Cowan Jr., big time in the Big Ten.
Huge in the Big Ten. I remember, I'm telling this true story. I'm working at the University of Arizona, and I come in to see him, and I'm like, man, sub-6 foot. But I watched him in high school, and I just was like, guess what? He wins.
Yep.
He impacted winning on so many different levels. And, you know, what the tough thing is to recruit that far, and it's like, you know what, you got to just make sure. But when you look at Anthony, I'm telling you, he was winning personified. Guess what did he do at Maryland? He won. You know, when you're sub 6 feet, you have to be able to affect winning. You got to, be able to guard the ball. You got to be able to run a team. And you know what? You got to be able to make open shots. He did that at a really high level.
Well, the lead is ballooned to 29 here, as Christ the King has outscored St. Ray's 39-19 in the second half. Another turnover here. Some of the second unit players in. This is Chico Kalu, and he lost it. Stays alive, though, for Christ the King. 90 seconds to go.
I'm looking at the body language from both benches, and it's just a very telltale sign. I'm looking at the Christ the King guys. They are up. They are cheering. And then you look at the dismantled St. Raymond's group, head in their hands. It's just, as a coach, that's something that I would address, you know, just from top to bottom. Hey, we win as a team, we lose as a team, we are one way. But I'm just saying, you look at the two benches, and it's a telltale sign that, hey, you know what, this, you know, are these guys 29 points better than us? You know, I think we would definitely say these are things that needs to be worked on versus, hey, I'm just going to tuck my tail and give it in.
Foul against Christ the King, and Isaiah Gonzalez will shoot free throws. This feels like a situation where so many of these sophomores that are stars for St. Ray's They're going to look in 2 years when they play Christ the King in 2000 and what is that, 24, 25, and they'll say, remember when they beat us by 29 when we were sophomores or whatever this ends up being, right? When these kids are fully developed and all signed with schools and whatever it might be, this is going to be a memory that they won't forget.
Here's a really quick, interesting story. My sophomore year at St. Raymond's, we started 5 sophomores, and St. Nicholas of Tallentine, which was probably #1 in the country, and they had at one point they had 4 McDonald's All-Americans on their team, and the school closed down and we played them, and you know what? We remember they beat us they pummeled us, and the difference was on that bench we said we're going to remember how this felt, and our junior year we beat them. Senior year, we won a city championship. We were #1 in the country, and USA Today top 25. We had done everything we could do, but that loss, we always talked about it because it was against a team that was, again, they were Christ the King. Adrian Autry went to Syracuse, Brian Reese went to North Carolina. Before them, God rest his soul, Malik, rest in peace, Malik Sealy, Anthony Cade. And those are four McDonald's All-Americans.
Block at the rim there for Oke Okrokoto after D'Agostino hit 2 free throws. St. Ray's looking to finish this game strong. A Euro step, and Amari Constantine draws the foul. So he'll shoot 2. So this will be what looks like a fairly easy win for Christ the King. And a nice bounce back for them after that showcase loss against Sierra Canyon the other day. What are your takeaways from this group?
This group is extremely talented. As I've watched them for a while now, their chemistry, they're starting to get it together. And I'm looking at the bench. I'm watching how they interact with one another, and I feel like they're turning the corner from, hey, we're going to play for each other instead of, we'll play for one another instead of playing for myself.
D'Agostino from the corner hits the 3. And the Christ the King bench erupts.
But I'm watching them. They're excited. Look. They're excited for one another. They're playing for one another. I couldn't say that maybe 2 weeks ago. Or 2 to 3 weeks ago, I could say they were trying to, get theirs versus now when you look at a 10th player scored, 75 points, there's 10 players that scored.
And again, Merchant, who was, well, how about this? He only played 7 minutes in the game. He had 14 points. He's their leading scorer.
Think about that. He came off the bench. And by the way, you know why he got 14? Because Pong got hurt.
Yep, it's true. And we very much hope Pong is going to be all right.
Yeah, definitely. Just sending my warmest wishes. Trying to make sure that it's whatever it is, on his lower leg, that he gets better really quick. So,
an absolutely dominant second half from Christ the King. And they defeat St. Ray's 75-42 in Game 2 of the battle in New Jersey. Coach, it was a tight game at the break. It was tied after 1 quarter, but St. Ray's in the last 3 gets outscored by Christ the King by 33 points. A dominant effort from Christ the King.
Awesome job. Like I said, that's a nationally ranked group who, they're going to have an opportunity, to compete to not only win the city, the state, but for a national championship.
So that'll wrap things up for us for Game 2. Don't forget, coming up next is Roselle Catholic and the Patrick School. For now, we'll sign off for a few moments. For our entire outstanding crew, our final, Christ the King 75, St. Raymond 42. You've been watching the battle in New Jersey on SUVtv and HBCU League Pass Plus.